What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtonette. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over my Week 2 preview. If you saw my Week 1 predictions, that didn't go too well, so I'm going to be kind of narrowing it down, really focusing on a few games to go over. But before I go into it, if you go on to enjoy this video, please feel free to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're always up to date whenever I upload. Getting things started, we're obviously going over the marquee matchup. That's Michigan against Oklahoma. This is a top 20 matchup. The Sooners are favored by 2.5. It's at 7:30 Eastern on ABC in Norman, Oklahoma. Looking at the Michigan offense first, Bryce Underwood, I think, passed pretty well in that first game, albeit not against the stiffest competition, but a good debut for him. 21 for 31, 251 yards and a touchdown. But Justice Haynes went off. He rushed for over 150 yards, almost 10 yards per carry, 9.9, and 3 touchdowns. Macklin Klein also was a big target for Underwood in this one, with 6 receptions for 93 yards and a touchdown. Now, the Oklahoma offense obviously goes by John Mateer, who kind of delivered on a lot of his preseason expectations in Week 1. He passed for just shy of 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He played really well, and he paired really well with Keontae Lewis, who had 9 of those receptions for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a rout over Illinois State. Another thing to watch in this game, I think it's going to be a couple of really good linebacker groups, although Jayshon Barham will be out for the first half for Michigan. So that will certainly factor in, especially early on. If I'm Oklahoma, I want to attack, really, especially that kind of ground game, but even a little bit of that short passing game while they have, without one of their top 2 linebackers. But Ernest Hausman will still be in there for the Wolverines. And then for Oklahoma, Sammy Omo-Siggo, along with Kip Lewis, those are kind of the key guys. Sammy leads the team in tackles. To me, the question is, how does this Michigan secondary, which is among the best in college football, do against this passing game that racked up almost 400 yards last week? Jair Hill, Zeke Berry, Rod Moore, those are the 3 guys to watch. But in Week 1 against New Mexico, it was kind of some different guys that stepped up. It was edge, TJ Guy, linebacker Cole Sullivan. So watch for Sullivan as well to make an impact while Barham is out. And then Braden Hillman. So this Wolverines team, I think their defense is really strong. I think Oklahoma, though, at the end of the day, has a really good offense. They showed that early on. And I think they also have the benefit of home field. So I'm going with Oklahoma 27, Michigan 21. So Oklahoma, yes, to cover, but I think it is a very close game. Next up, another big game, USF, South Florida at Florida. This is a 4:15 Eastern game on SEC Network in Gainesville. It's kind of one that I think is going a little under the radar because the Gators are favored pretty comfortably by, I think, 17.5. DJ Lagway looks really good in Week 1, albeit against Long Island. Now, the Bulls really kind of bound up Boise State in Week 1, who was the group of 5 favorites for the college football playoff going into the season. Byron Brown will be a player to watch, obviously the quarterback for South Florida, along with the defense, which forced a couple fumbles, and special teams because of that fake punt that they ran. To me, though, I do think USF keeps it a little bit closer, but I think Florida does get the win. Florida 35, USF 21. Next up, Illinois at Duke. This is a pretty good matchup between 2 teams that are kind of dark horses in their conference. It's noon Eastern on ESPN in Durham, North Carolina. Again, they're kind of the teams that are kind of under the radar in both the Big Ten and the ACC. They both had tune-ups in Week 1. Darian Mensah, though, the transfer from Tulane, did look really good. He had almost 400 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And then the Fighting Illini put up almost 450 total yards of offense. The key players here, Luke Altmaier at quarterback for Illinois, running back Aiden Lowry, linebacker Gabe Jacas, and defensive lineman Tomiya Durojaye, DBs Miles Scott and Xavier Scott. For Duke, it's Mensah at quarterback, wide receiver Cooper Bacate, linebacker Jaden Francois, defensive end Vincent Anthony Jr., and cornerback Chandler Rivers. I think this is honestly a very evenly matched game, and in games like this, I won't always go with the home field, but I think I will here. I think Duke gets a big win here. I think Illinois is going to be really good in the Big Ten this year. I think Duke's going to be the really good team in the ACC. I even have them going to the ACC championship game. And because of that, I think they they play well in this one. I think they come out on top. It could be a high-scoring game in this one. Highlighted those offenses. Duke 34, Illinois 31. Next up is Cyhawk. You've got Iowa at Iowa State, noon Eastern on Fox in Ames, Iowa. New Hawkeyes quarterback Mark Gronowski really had some struggles in week one. Took a hard knock during that game as well, but even before that, didn't put up a whole lot of offense. Only 44 passing yards. However, it didn't matter too much because Xavier Williams led the way with 122 of the Hawkeyes' 310 rushing yards. Looking over this, some of the key players, quarterback for Iowa, Gronowski, Williams at running back, Terrell Washington Jr. also had a lot of that rush yardage. Center Logan Jones, along with the rest of the offensive line, will be a key thing to watch for Iowa, because if they can get that push, they might be able to have enough to run the ball enough that Iowa State doesn't even get the ball too much. So defensive lineman Max Llewellyn and strong safety Zach Lutmer. For Iowa State, quarterback Rocco Becht has really put up some good numbers and dazzled in the first couple of games so far. Running back Carson Hansen, he had a big week 0 game against Kansas State. He's their leading rusher. And then Brett Eskilson is the team's leading receiver. Linebacker Cooper Abell is a key guy to watch on defense. And then defensive backs Marcus Neal and Jamison Patton. Iowa State, I think, has the better team. I think Iowa had a lot of issues, I think, on the offensive side, at least passing. I think if Iowa State can plug those holes up front, I think they are in a favorable position. I think they do. So I'm going with Iowa State 24, Iowa 14. This game is close a lot of times, but I think Iowa State is just a little bit of a class above this year. Next up, it's the border war. Kansas at Missouri. This is an exciting game for the Jayhawks. You've got Jalen Daniels at quarterback. He's been playing really well so far. 456 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and an interception. And when he plays well, the Jayhawks play well, as evidenced by a couple of seasons ago and then the back half of their season last year, getting those big wins. For Missouri, Bo Pribula was pretty solid in his debut, but I think, honestly, Kansas right now has the better team. Now, I know they haven't played a real quality opponent yet, but I think they passed this test. This is where I'm going, actually, with a road team, even though this is kind of a toss-up game to pull the upset. I'm going with Kansas 31, Missouri 27. One other game kind of to keep an eye on that I think could be a trap game is Ole Miss at Kentucky. SEC play begins week 2. The Rebels stumbled at home last year to the Cats, and they're favored by 9.5 this year, so I think they certainly have to keep an eye out. Austin Simmons in his debut picked up a lot of yards, 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. So Kentucky's defense will have an opportunity here where if they can force some turnovers, they could be in a good position. They actually did that pretty well last week. They had an interception and 2 forced fumbles, which I think both those fumbles were by Steven Souls Jr. in their week 1 win over Toledo. I think Kentucky keeps this game closer than expected, at least by the spread, but I do think Ole Miss wins 27-23. Another big game, Baylor at SMU. This is a good non-conference game for both of these teams, kind of a college football playoff resume booster. I think Baylor's offense looked a little uncertain, I guess, against Auburn, losing that week 1 game. SMU is a little bit even more established. I know Baylor has that really good offensive trio led by quarterback Sawyer Robertson, but I like Kevin Jennings at SMU, so I think the Mustangs get the win here. Now kind of rapid fire here with just a couple of straight up game picks. Vandy at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's offense struggled. I think Vandy's going to be pretty good again this year, so I'm going with the Commodores on the road. Arizona State at Mississippi State. This is kind of a case of probably a better conference in the SEC with Mississippi State going up against a better team with Arizona State, so Arizona State wins on the road. UCLA at UNLV. This is an intriguing game, I think, kind of under the radar. Nico Iamaleava struggled in week 1 against Utah. Obviously, Dan Mullen, I think, is kind of known more as an offensive coach, but how his defense does will be key in this one. I do think this time Nico does pass the test, and I think UCLA wins. Boston College at Michigan State, kind of an interesting matchup between two teams, kind of in the middle of the ACC and the Big Ten. I think Sparty wins at home here. West Virginia at Ohio. Ohio played Rutgers really close last week, and I think they could play the Mountaineers really close again, but I do think that West Virginia has the better team this year. Virginia at NC State is the last game to go over. ACC play begins here. Virginia had to go to backup quarterback Daniel Kalin. Shout out Danny from here in the Bellevue area, Nebraska. Covered his high school career at Bellevue West. I'm not exactly sure of the status of Chandler Morris, but I think it was more of a short-term injury versus what we're looking at with the quarterback situation at Oklahoma State, which will be the next game I talk about briefly. And then NC State, I think NC State is the better, more well-rounded team, so I'm going with the Wolfpack here. And then finally, that game I just teased, Oklahoma State at Oregon. Zane Flores, another quarterback whose career I covered out at Gretna. He'll be making his starting debut after coming in after Oklahoma State's starter was injured. So I think Oregon probably wins comfortably here. If this was in Stillwater, I think, this could be a game where Flores kind of feeds off that momentum. And I will say, he's a very composed quarterback. He's very calm, cool, and collected. So I don't think that environment will bother him. But going up against a tough Oregon defense, and for Oklahoma State's defense having to stop Oregon's offense, will be a big test. So I'm going with Oregon here in this one straight up. And it's a big spread. I don't know if they quite cover it, but they probably do just because it's at home. So I'm going with Oregon there in the final game. But that is all for my week 2 preview. Let me know if you think there's any games that I missed. And I look forward to checking back in with you guys, hopefully for a more successful week. 5-6 last week. I'll always put that out there for you guys, and I'll try to have a running total throughout the season. So hopefully a little bit of improvement this time around. But thanks again for watching College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burnett, signing out. Peace.